Hello and welcome to another classic book review with David. Today I'll be discussing The Sign of Four by Arthur Conan Doyle. It's a Sherlock Holmes novel. It was the second novel by Arthur Conan Doyle about Sherlock Holmes. Confusingly, it's also known as The Sign of the Four. In fact, its original title was The Sign of the Four, and then later editions in the same year that it was published, which was 1890, it was called The Sign of Four. And since then, it's had two titles, but for the sake of this video, I'll call it The Sign of Four, because that's what I first knew it as. It came about when someone called Joseph Stoddart, an editor of a magazine called Lippincott's Monthly Magazine, invited Arthur Conan Doyle to the Langham Hotel in London to discuss a possible contribution to the magazine. At that meeting, Oscar Wilde was also invited, and he was asked to make a contribution as well. Arthur Conan Doyle's contribution was The Sign of Four, and Oscar Wilde's contribution was this, the picture of Dorian Gray. And here's the Sign of Four. Just in case you want to see it, here's a copy I picked up in a charity shop about 6 months ago. Anyway, so Arthur Conan Doyle wrote The Sign of the Four, and it was published in 1890. It was his, as I said, it was his second outing for Sherlock Holmes. It didn't sell particularly well to begin with, like its predecessor, A Study in Scarlet, the first Sherlock Holmes novel. Neither of the novels sold particularly well. And it was only in 1891, a year after The Sign of the Four, when Arthur Conan Doyle started writing the Sherlock Holmes short stories that they really took off, and people began to know who Sherlock Holmes was. So what about this novel, The Sign of Four? We learn in the first couple of pages or so that Sherlock Holmes takes cocaine, and Dr. Watson, his sidekick, is very displeased with Sherlock Holmes for doing this, and quite rightly. It's affecting Sherlock Holmes and his work and stuff. And Sherlock says it's because he's bored. But his boredom doesn't last for long, because they get a visitor called Mary Morstan. And she brings with her a mystery. There are a few things going on. Firstly, a few years back, her father returned from India and sent her a telegram asking her to meet him at the Langham Hotel. But when she turns up there, she's told he's gone out, and she never sees him again. And a couple of years pass, and then each year she starts getting a pearl from someone. Someone keeps sending her a pearl, and she gets one a year. And that's another mystery. And Sherlock Holmes is intrigued, and he investigates. I won't give away too much about the plot. In fact, that's pretty much all I'll give away, because it's a pretty complicated plot, and if I start trying to explain it all, I'd be here for a long time. You're probably best off just reading the book to get a good sense of it. It's a very enjoyable book, but it's not as good as, certainly not as good as The Hounds of the Baskervilles, which is an excellent novel and is Sherlock Holmes at his very best. But it is still a very good story, and for that reason, I will give it 4 stars for The Sign of Four, or The Sign of the Four. Take your pick. But yes, it is a very good read, well worth reading. If you'd like to purchase the book, I'll put some links below, including links for large print and dyslexia friendly editions of the book. And if you want to follow on Twitter or Facebook, you can do that below. And of course, you can always subscribe. And that's it.